Yes. Yes. Are we ready? Okay. All right, I'm going to introduce you first. Okay. So we are so pleased to have with us today the Director of the College of Architecture of the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, Marco Mazari. Professor Mazari, Director Mazari, has graduated from UNAM with honors with both his bachelor's degree as well as his master's in architecture as well as restoration. He also studied in the University of Aston in Birmingham, England, in planning and in environmental design. He has taught for 30 years and, among other accomplishments, started the School of Landscape Architecture at the university. He has been recognized and honored inside and outside the university, and has also been recognized as a member of the National Academy of Architecture. Please join me in welcoming Director Mazari. And then Rodrigo Mazari is an architecture student at the university and has been since 2011, and I'm already impressed by his resume that he's developed. He is working on his thesis focus in the preservation of modern architecture in Mexico, so he has a lot in common with us already. He has studied in Norway at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and he has already collaborated on a MoMA exhibit with Escobedo Solis Studio, and he's currently working at Taller de Arquitectura with Mauricio Roca and Gabriela Carrillo. Please welcome Rodrigo Mazari.
Thank you very much. Well, something happened that we are together here. He's my son, but he was coming before and then they invited me to come. I'd like to, well, I'm doing a presentation of what we do at our school, our university, the work we develop here, and who we are and where we are, what we're doing. So I'm speaking about globalization, identity, and architecture. So because I'm not doing very fast. I'll speak first on Mexico City. Mexico City is quite a different place than Tucson, because we were a lake formerly, and the city was developed on the lake, first by the pre-Hispanic cultures, and afterwards through the Spanish conquest. However, we have been working with the lake for all our life until we have desiccated this lake. So the lake was a system of lakes. There was a salt lake and a sweet lake, or sweet water lake, and through the years we have been desiccating the lake, and the city has been growing in an hydrological basin that has been part of our way of life and our culture. Right now, this is the form of the lakes, and we have, you can see how the city has spread, not just in the basin, but on the mountains and all around in a way that right now we have a very complex city that goes out from the boundaries of what we call Mexico City. It was formerly a federal district, now it's Mexico City, and it goes through the state of Mexico, and then part of the state of Tlaxcala. That there are other states, and we have more or less 22 million people living in this urban area. 9 million people living in the core of the city, that's Ciudad de Mexico, and the rest living in the outskirts. The city has two ways of growing. If you overview Mexico City, you'll see something like this. You may be on a train giving around Mexico City half an hour before you finally arrive into the airport. And the city is formed of two parts. This is the part of the city that has been built by the people, and there's another part of the city that's a formal city, as many other cities in the world. We've got the most important avenue, that's Avenida Reforma, and there are different municipalities within the city, 16 municipalities, we call them delegaciones, where the city has been growing inside the city. However, economical and social conditions have made that living in the city sometimes is too expensive, so people is going to the outskirts, and we have a mobility problem that's very severe right now. As you can see, we have a city that's trying to grow in height, so that will help us to have more people inside the city area. However, we have very bad soil because we are founded on this lake that was formerly there. This is something that's not just happening in Mexico City, it's happening all around Mexico. Cities are growing. You can see how they grow from 1980 to 2010. That's the last one, the most orange color here. And what's happening is that the cities, we are going into an urbanization process that is a process that's making cities spread on rural areas and on some kinds of land uses that perhaps are not the best. But this is something very important because sometimes the city has grown just a little bit part, but it has grown more than 10 times in its this is how much it has grown. So we are spreading on the land, we are changing land uses, and we are growing into an urban process that goes all around the most important cities in Mexico. Here you can see cities more or less the size of Tucson, that would be Culiacan, or Chihuahua as well. These are the city centers, but the city centers are compact. However, what's happening in the periphery is that the cities have spread on an auto-edificating way. They are not being planned because everything has been planned. As this process is very fast, it goes further, or before it can be prepared for this urban growth. So what we do is we have the urban growth, and then we start working on how to formalize this growth that has been planned, but that doesn't really answer to this. It has been too fast. However, if you speak about Mexican architecture, usually I have found that Mexican architecture is Luis Barragán. Everybody thinks that Luis Barragán is Mexican architecture, and Mexican architecture is Luis Barragán. But he's one of the most important architects. Of course, this is his house in Tacubaya, and well, he has synthesized all these ideas of Mexican architecture, this architecture that looks in the inside, that has a dialogue with the outside, and that has these colors and these strong forms, and you know that the wave and the strong architecture that has been is well known around the world for Luis Barragán. However, or Ricardo de Borreta, that has many works. This is Dallas, one of Dallas museums that has these strong forms and these bright colors that has characterized this idea of Mexican architecture. However, Mexican architecture is not just this. At the university, at our school, the architects the archives of Mexican architects, where you can find all these architects. And we are a center, a research center, that hold the idea of sharing these archives of these architects that were formed. Our school was formerly named the National School of Architecture. Most of Mexican architecture schools are born from our own university. So these architects that are the 20th century architects in Mexico develop their work, and we have their archives. And we have a research center that helps us to be the most important in Mexico on 20th century architecture. This is, for example, Carlos Mijares and Mazari. And we've got also on international style Augusto Alvarez. I'm doing some books for the library. I've got one book for, I know the libraries you have in the Central Library. Here's a book on Augusto Alvarez's work, and it's in the international style and how this develops into a Mexican international style. That's very strong way of working in Mexico. And for this is Enrique Lamora and Felix Candela. This vault, he worked with these shells that are very well known as well. Or this is the stadium of Augusto Tres Palacios. This is the stadium of Ciudad Universitaria. That's a place where the stadium was built on the pre-Hispanic way. It doesn't have a structure, but it's a land structure where it was built. This is part of our university. And this is the university. This is how the university was built in 1950s. It's a very interesting experiment on urban and landscape planning, as well as architecture, because this made the university a reference in Mexican culture. The university has, this is right now we have grown a lot, and this is the central part of the Universitaria. But however, we got the stadium of Pérez Palacios here. This is where the principal, the presidency of the university, and then we've got all these open spaces that are pedestrian spaces, in which the pre-Hispanic proportion and scale has been brought into a modern language. So what we've got is this, it's not like that it's pre-Hispanic, but it has the proportion and scale that makes it, that we can identify this as a Mexican and then we have all these urban and street that go around, and that makes that the center, the core is just a pedestrian. So this is the university today. The university as well has its buildings with this is the way they say we have a part of Mexico where we call the China Poblana is the dress. It's a pebble dress full of colors and flowers and birds and everything. So they say that this, somebody said that this is an international style, but with dressed like China Poblana, because we dressed our buildings with all these murals, becoming it the way the Hispanic architecture it was. That was that sculpture, painting, and architecture, as well as the urban planning, were all together in the same as a whole. So that's something that happens at Ciudad Universitaria. This is suburban work. This is Mario Padilla de Morales did the project. Siqueiros, this is a Siqueiros. In this mural there's something interesting, because there's an eagle and a condor, because Mexico is considered to be in the middle of the condor from the south and the eagle from the north. So in some way the university was thought as a link of Latin America and North America, and this is in this mural it's looked on these drawings. This is the School of Architecture, and this campus has been declared Mankind Heritage. There are two campuses on the 20th century, the one in Venezuela and this in Mexico, that's been declared Mankind Heritage. for their cultural reference as well as its architectural and art manufacture. Something that's interesting here is that this project has been done by 60 architects and more than 20 artists at the same time. Meanwhile, in Venezuela it was done by one architect, and he invited all the international artists to work with him. So what happens here is that this is a teamwork, and the teamwork reflects the culture and reflects as well these ideals of an open university, a university for everybody, and a university that could give the possibility of a country being developed. Through these archives of Mexican architects, as well as the Center of Research in Architecture, Landscape and Urbanism, we have developed some exhibitions like this one, that of course if you are interested in we may show you. But this makes also the idea of, we think that right now something that's important is that we have to share experiences and knowledge. We see that it's very important that we don't work just on our own, but to work outside, and in some way the work of Candela has been very well recognized, because Candela did part of his life in Mexico, part of his life in the States, and part of his life in Spain. So it makes him like an international architect that developed this kind of shells, and that these shells were in its moment one of the most important way of developing technology. I've seen just one right now that we are building downstairs that looks very much like this one. This is a restaurant in Xochimilco area. These shells were very cheap, and they were designed to be used in industrial buildings. So the idea was to work on the technology, and that's why I think this has been a very interesting exhibition that has gone around the States. As well, we got publications on research and for students as well. I'm giving one a magazine, so you can know it, and the idea is that as well as we think we have to share our experience, we think that we have to receive other experiences. So I would like to invite students and professors to join us and perhaps to do some work together that could enable the possibility of having this north-south idea mixing on the way of we teach and the way we work in architecture. We have some books. I'm reading as well a book from the university. This is the campus guide, and as well as one of the book that this is English. This is only one that's the whole book in English. That's on the 60th year of the university. One that is making us look at architecture in a different way. It's the first time we will write a book that's on the Universidad, our campus, but it's not just seen by architects, but it's seen by other disciplines and the people that really live there. So we are looking towards the people and architecture, and not just architecture itself. We are looking at the possibility of sharing knowledge, and we're looking at the possibility of sharing experience. When we speak of Mexican architecture, you must have seen that this great architecture is right now, as in the whole world, being developed by large and very important firms in architecture. That's, for example, this one. It's the Torre Vancomer. It has just been finished on Paseo de la Reforma in Mexico City, and you see that it's a joint project between Royos and Leborret. And what's happening is that we are in a moment that globalization is making us look around the world in these great or big firms that join and that develop these huge projects. However, we think that our students must see that we have to work on this as well in the way we teach architecture and the way we do architecture. This is the new report from Mexico City, and it's Norman Foster and Fernando Romero. At our school they always say that Norman, as they say, they call them not Foster but Norman, says Fernandito, that means little Fernando. I'm going to show how to do it. And Fernandito answers, no, I will show you how to draw because we are in a joint project, it's a group project. So this is the way globalization is working, because these firms, as you see, the ages are completely different, but the size of the firms as well is completely different. And one of the major issues in the airport is that there had to be a joint between a Mexican firm and an international firm. But this is not the way it always works. And through this, they say that this has a Mexican identity. It's rather difficult to find a Mexican identity in this project. However, Romero gave the identity and Foster gave the whole project because he has built and designed many important airports around the world. But at the same time, in the middle of all this, there's also another part of the city that's being built by people. And this is part of the issue we have to work on, because the social awareness is very important in a country that's developing so fast, as I said before. And sometimes there are projects like this that they just give a new face to the same problem. But the same problem is to work. We are working on urban public spaces and not just on doing beautiful art shows. So it's a hard issue to work. How can we give a better quality of life for the people that live in these places, and how can we teach to our students the way the social involvement should be. So we have some areas that I think that they, speaking with Mary this morning, I found that you also have a program that works on social and community work. This, for example, is work that's done in Guerrero. Perhaps the closest place you may know, maybe Acapulco. It's in this state of Mexico, in the southern part of Mexico, and it's a place where we still have it's a very small community, but we still have communities that they don't speak Spanish. They are working still on speaking Spanish, and they are also trying to get education facilities for them. However, the facilities that are built in a general way doesn't solve the problem of weather, climate, and let's say we have to do something that's closer to the vernacular architecture than just to give a solution like this building that's in the photograph that's built all around Mexico. So what we are working with the communities is the possibility to work with them and to find these solutions hand by hand with vernacular architecture and the possibility to be built by their own. So we have a complete design process where we engage with the community, and we have an analysis and a diagnosis being done of what should be kept, what should be moved away, and we got projects and we have to keep what's been built before, because if not we'll have problems with the education secretary in Mexico. So we have to work together until we develop a new way of building and a new way of living within this kind of school. So this is something we've been doing as well in other communities and that one will be in the near future. This is another school in another area in the middle of Mexico where students develop the project and then they go and build it. I was speaking with Mary. For us, it's very difficult to work on housing because housing always gives some help to somebody. Instead, if we work on educational facilities, they are for the whole community. So the whole community will work with us, and we can have the whole design process with them, know the community, know what they are needing, and then give us and give them the opportunity to work in a project like this one, where community and students work together and build this rural school. We also work around the city. As I told, it was the river basin. We work with other communities that are working on keeping the environmental areas. But it's very hard because they need to be pushed by a project that gives the value to keep the environmental value instead of becoming part of the city. So we have some urban planning projects as well that they look to keep the parts that are still there with the lake and that still are areas for keeping the environmental quality of the city, in which we work with the community much more in the urban planning and landscape architectural projects than in architecture itself. We also work in these traditional procedures and systems because we found, as I think you have found as well, that these are more sustainable than if it's going to be self-built. It's important that we evaluate the way of build. So we have other research projects on this, and that we do workshops and we work with communities as well. So this is the team that works there, and we are trying to keep this way of building as part of the way that may be done still in some rural communities. Like this was a help that the university gave to one family on Earth. And there's other projects like this that has been, this is the School of Arts in Oaxaca, where it has the same technique. It's what Mauricio Rocha is. It's a studio that he was formerly our student, and what's happening is that he works on the idea of keeping these kind of buildings, of the way of structure, but having it in a different form of way. Something that has been happening in Mexico is that even though we have so many different weathers and different sites in the whole country, we usually did all the work centralized in Mexico City. So right now we have the Infonavit is the Institute for Housing in Mexico, and we have developed an idea. This is a contest of regional housing. This is something that's becoming each day more important because when in the 1970s most of these multifamiliar housing projects were designed and built, they were designed from Mexico City through the whole country. And right now what we are working on is the possibility of having regional housing with regional techniques and with regional solutions that may be better than just giving the projects from the city. And this has developed the possibility of working in housing with this institute, and this has given us the possibility to work with other architect firms that work for the institute as well as our students. So this is a very good exercise because our students in some way look how they did the work with other professional firms, and we have done it rather well. I think that we have two prizes in one of the contests. That gives us the idea that we have been forming our students on the way to look at the regional problems. There's another projects that are done on sustainable architecture. This was the solar decathlon that was held in Paris, and this started as all the solar decathlons in a student teams with professors that got designed and built in Mexico, and then it was rebuilt in Versailles, where we had some prizes there. But this project has gone further. So right now, this house is in the Museum of Science of the university, and we are working like a lab on this house because we are looking towards not just forming a group of students that has left us, the students have finished and they have run away, but we are working with it in making the possibility to have other generations working on these projects and perhaps in the near future participating with more knowledge and more experience in another solar, being in the States or being in Europe, I don't know where. And this has also gave us the necessity to work on sustainable building for education research laboratory, where we are just starting. I've seen your labs today, and I think that you are a step further than where we are, but we are looking towards this kind of experience for our students. We've got the problem, we've got many students, but we need them to have this experience as you are having it right now. So while we are working on energetic, climatology, lighting, and mechanics parameters with these labs, that they are sponsored by the Council of Science and Technology. This has been very hard because architects are not, we don't classify for this council, but now we have to classify. So I think we have opened the door that we have to explore. And for example, in this, we would be very pleased because we took a lot of photographs of the work we're doing, because that will help us to show them we are not the first one in the world that has this idea. This idea has been developed in other universities, and it makes a professional practice from school that helps students to look at these energetic or environmental problems since they are in school. So we're working on this, as well as we working in the postgraduate program. We have a group where we got this technology area working on most of how the climate and how the heat and the materials are they're joined in the way but we choose to have a project. And this is, I'm going very fast. And well, this is, and now I'm going to introduce this studio that Solis Escobedo studio. Solis and Escobedo were students. They just finished last year with us. And they started working with the community first. And the first work they did, this was their social practice, and their social practice led them to develop this project that this is the community. It was church, formerly church, and then it became a community center around the church in the southern part of Mexico City, in the Yucatan Peninsula, perhaps near Cancun, something. Just very close, but it's near. This project was sent to the Holcim Awards contest for the new generation, where they got a prize there. Because it was seen that they have developed all the work of the community through the work of the community to engage the community in doing this project. However, financial aid is very hard to have it, so we haven't been able, even with the Holcim Awards reward, being able to build because it doesn't have a concrete anywhere. So Holcim says we say it's very important for it, but we can afford to help. And this studio as well, last year there was I could say, promotion from the MoMA museum, in which they asked me who would be a good studio of young architects that can participate in their contest for young architects as well. So, well, I choose them because sometimes you have, as dean, you have to do something like this. So I choose from 3 studios of young architects that have left our school last year, and well, the Escobedo and Solis studio was selected from a group of architects, and then they participated in this project for the moment. And now Rodrigo, he's a student at our school, and he joined this studio to work because they didn't have, as all the young studios, they don't have any financial aid. We helped them at the university, giving them a place to work, and then they decided to invite a group of students to work with them and to be part of this project, this team. So now we will speak about the team and what happened in New York.
So, yeah, they invited a group of students. So this is the whole group. We worked on the project. We built it ourselves. But in Mexico, we were 4 students from the university, these 2 architects. And then when we were working in MoMA, we invited people from Yale and from Columbia University to help us. So, well, that was the whole group. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the project. How did we develop it? So, first we talk about the influences, because as he was saying, we have these global and these local influences. So we saw this is how a little small action can cause a big reaction kind of thing. So, yeah, and then we also took this is the Huichol way of weaving. So when we saw these images, we were really interested in the way it was done rather than the scale. I mean, we weren't so literal about it, but you can see where it comes from. So the way we worked was we did models. Most of the project was developed by doing these. We had the idea, you have this empty site that has, well, it's a pre-existing, so we have to work with it. So we started and we said, okay, we want to do something with earth and we want to do something with some kind of string. So we started working on the proposals. What MoMA asked for was that it gave shade and cool people, and then that it could be used for children and for parties where people would get drunk. So we have a contrast there. So we started working on these ideas where we had the courtyard and we were weaving. So we literally took the idea of weaving. The concrete walls existing there had the holes empty, so we said, okay, we can use those. But we couldn't get enough density of the ropes to give shape. So what we came up with was, well, different solutions. For example, here we had one rope that went all the way around where we would put the other ropes, but then we thought that it wouldn't make sense that you put a rope to hold the ropes, because otherwise, I mean, you can do that anywhere, not just with the hole. So we tried then the next one where we put a metal rod where we would take all the ropes to, but then we also thought that wasn't the right one. So as you can see, we worked a lot with these models just to see different configurations, how we could make the weave more dense so that it would give a little bit more shape. This was almost the final version because, well, when they presented to MoMA, they said we need more shape. We only had 2 sets of ropes, so we tried maybe with a 3rd set of ropes, but I mean, that was really big. So, okay, this is the way we presented to the MoMA. So here's the empty site. We have 3 courtyards. This big one, which is the main courtyard, and these 2 smaller ones here. So we said, okay, we're going to do first earthworks, which is we're going to have these 2 benches that will hold. This one will hold earth, and the other one will hold water, because we want the people to be able to be there using maybe like an urban beach. So you have these elements that take you to the beach in a way. And then we have this smaller courtyard which we wanted to make into a cloud, because we thought that would make interesting 3 different situations. The courtyards are very different sizes, so then what can you do in each of these, right? So the big courtyard, you have the sand, and then you have the ropes, and then in the smaller courtyard you have the pool, and then in the smallest one you have the cloud, which makes you, in the summer in New York, hot. So that feels really nice. And then, okay, this is the way we did the weaving. First we kind of saw the whole wall with a white rope, and then we started doing these ropes that overlap with each other and make 2 planes that intersect. So you have these 2 originally we had 2 ropes and 2 ropes, so in total we had 4 ropes, but then we had to change that in order to give more shape. So this was the final proposal. You have these 3 actions that change the space in a way that a really simple action, and then it changes completely. So this was the idea. We never thought of it as an empty space. We always thought about the activities people would do here. So the pool is not just, oh, what a nice pool, right? So you can go into it, you can play in the water, and yeah, in the sand, kids make sand castles and everything. So yeah, it was really nice. And this is the model we presented. Here you can see the idea of having these 2 planes that intersect and make this curve. Some people told us like, yeah, this is really like parametric design, but we never really actually did anything on the computer until the renderings. So everything was done in the model. So this curve is defined by the site, as well as the one here is reflecting this curve onto the ground. So you have this difference, but oops. Yeah, you have the difference of the level, which is really small, but then you also have the color, and how people interact here is really interesting. Well, this is the site. How it worked is we had a contractor there who helped us get all the materials and everything, but we didn't have enough budget to hire people to build it, so we built it ourselves. So yeah. So this is the way we started, by doing it. So first we did the bench and the sand, and then we started weaving with the ropes, which may seem easy, but then it was really hard. So here it's how it looked with only 1 or 2 colors. Each set of ropes was made of 3 colors. This one is yellow and 2 greens, and the other one was pink, orange, and red. So that you have these bright colors that really, you can see the intersection we wanted that to show. So this is how it looked with 1 color, and then this is how it started to look when you put the other colors in, and then this is the final result. So this is, I mean, it was really nice when we were doing it. The museum was open, so people were coming in and going out, and they were like, okay, what's happening here? And then when we finished, they were like, okay, yeah. So this here, you can see from the entrance of the museum, you saw these 2 planes that intersect with each other. We used the white ropes on this side. On this side, we had to leave this space empty, so we used the white ropes to kind of make it a stronger, I'm not really sure how to say it. Yeah, like a stronger gesture here, so that you would mark this part, and then the other part is where you can actually enjoy the space. Yeah, this is the final. So what you would get is this mess going on, but it's a really ordered mess, because, well, at least for us, we knew how you do it, so everything is thought logically. It was really hard, like for example in the intersection with the 2 planes, to know which rope goes above and which one goes under. But when you see it as a whole, it really doesn't matter. But all the ropes have to not touch each other, just kind of overlap a little bit. But when you see it this way, you see the colors that are really solid, but when you see it the other way, it's kind of not there. So you only get these shadows on the ground, which kind of reflect what's happening above. So we tried to make them as tight as possible, but everything was done by hand. So we had to leave this kind of curve, which in the end we really didn't matter. First we were like, no, it has to be really straight. The drawing says it's straight, but yeah, it's not possible. Here we were, the MoMA was asking for everything to be reusable or recyclable. So what we said, okay, these ropes are not recyclable because they were plastic ropes, but they are reusable. And also the benches we made in different modules so that you could take them apart and give them away or sell them. The sand you would be able to, we just rented it, so you would be able to bring it back. So yeah, this is like how it works. You can see each white rope has 3 colored ropes going out, and then here you can see this one is the small, like a cloud rope, So the idea was that you have different, so you see these from the concrete, everything is out of the concrete. So here you see the cloud coming out of the concrete, but then the space it creates when you're walking out, you like, okay, what's happening in there? And once you go in there, it blocks you out. So it makes this little room into very big, because you can just not see anything. So this is the pool. So our idea was, okay, kids can play in it, and they were fine with it. But then also these are the parties. So people, we wanted not to be like kind of differentiate in a way. So everybody got to use it. So these are the parties where you can see people from everywhere. Like just enjoying the place. That was basically the idea. Here you can see like how this bench, people just take that, and it's this small action that it's not like we didn't want to create an object in there, but just like maybe change the space a little, but to make like a big reaction to everyone who went there. Yeah, these are the parties. And then at night we had these lights, so the ropes would kind of light, which makes it look as if they were light ropes, but they are just regular ropes. And then in the end, as the MoMA wanted us to reuse everything, we find some weavers that are going to take all the ropes down, and they're going to make it for a public library into like a giant carpet. So these were some of the tests they showed us. And then the benches, they were modular, so we took them apart and then just sell them. So everything didn't go to waste. So basically that's it.
At the end, what we are telling our students, and that's the presentation we wanted to do with you, is that when I studied and you studied, I think we have, with our hands, we could count these architects that were so famous. And that we should know, have you been there, have you been at the Guggenheim, or have you been at Wow? Because we thought that was a way of learning architecture and living architecture. And with our hands we said, I know this, I know that, and I know this place, and I will work it. And we said, oh, Le Corbusier and all these things, or we talked about Barragan, and the color, and the courtyard, and how Mexican architecture should be. But for the students right now, that's not the future. The future has changed a lot. And now we can find that as the large architectural projects are done in this globalization idea of who is this great studio that may develop a project of large size, and we find that we have to work with our own identity. But identity is not just having a Mexican studio working with an international studio. Identity is much more than that. And something that we are looking towards is that architecture has different scales, and architects in the future should look at different scales. And the scale that for most architects are being needed is the human scale. The scale where we have to work with community, we have to share our knowledge with community, and we have to work in this space that we have a little left over with the architects, because we form architects that they are just always looking to these great projects and this great architecture. And of course we'll have, for sure here and with us, we'll have some students that will have this this profile. But we think right now that what we have to do is to work in a scale of architecture that needs architects. They need a lot of architects, landscape architects and planners, but that we have to move forward the possibility of making our students realize that the real world is with real people, and real people gives a possibility to rethink architecture. We have done this, I think, in the 60s in Europe, in the States, and in Mexico, this social awareness. However, we got the social awareness, but we are still always looking to the bridge of when I become this great architect. However, projects like this give the possibility of small films, as I told Escobedo and Solis didn't have even a studio. I just selected them and then they went to talk with me and said, can you please give us place and two computers because we don't have even a space to work in. And then they took a group of students that say, oh, well, we'll work with you because we're going to win. They never knew they were going to win. They never knew they were going to be chosen. There was another Mexican studio, that's very strong studio, and they thought they were going to win as well. But well, they were from all around the world, not just from Mexico, but it was very funny because this studio, they were so strong, and when they say it's a Mexican project, they thought it's us, and it was this young architect studio that was just born in some way. So this is another way of looking at architecture, and of course all these contests on architecture, the possibility to work on this and to do a professional practice in the contest is very important. But it's not the only way to deal with society as architects. But it's in our, at least in Mexico, we have to look to this whole range of needs that the society has, and the way the cities are growing and the ways the cities are developing. And what we need is to form architects with not just a social awareness, but the way of how to make possible to develop and to build and to I don't know how to say it in English, to make all the work with the community, with the financial aids, with government, with any kind of organization that could lead at the end to make these projects done and to finally reach people. And when we reach people, we will be forming people as architects, landscape architects, or urbanists that finally will have a big choice and a big opportunity to work in, but that we are always looking in the other side. So we have to look in a broader way, and well, with a huge school as ours, but we have to look in a broader way. But looking in a broader way, we think that our students will have a better professional future than just looking in this classical way of looking at architecture.
Are there any questions? I have one. How long was the process for the PS1? How much time did you have?
The project, we had 1 month to develop it before we had to present it to MoMA, and then afterwards it was like, since they said that we won 5 months of developing the details and everything, we had just kind of the idea, but not really detailed everything. So they had like 5 months to develop that, and then 1 month to build.
So 6 months kind of total
Yeah,
time frame.
yeah, like from January, and then it opened in June.
Since 1980, Mexico's been involved in a process of democratization, politically and in other ways. Do you regard this as architectural democratization by working with the communities? And should historians consider architecture as we discuss that topic?
Well, that's a discussion that we have had for a long time. Our school in the 1960s was cut into pieces. The social awareness part and the architectural, classic architectural profile. Right now we have joined again, since it took from 1968 until 1980s to rejoin. And still, right now we are in some way working on how this could be this could be true, because as you say, this architecture and democracy process is very hard. It's very hard, but we need to not to have just in the theoretical explain, but we should have it in the practice. And we think that practice should lead us to join both schools in some way for us. I don't know if this answers your question.
Yeah.
So in the NOMA project, did you look at your use of the we child weaving and the way you conceive of constructing a building as something fundamentally different from, say, like Integración Plástica of the 50s with the application of murals to modernist structures? Because it seemed like it was integrated with how you actually designed the building.
No, we actually thought more, like most of the projects that had been done before were objects in the courtyard. What we wanted to do was to do something with the courtyard, because otherwise if you have, say, like a tower, you can put the tower in the courtyard or outside of the courtyard and it wouldn't really matter. What we really thought after was to work with the space that was there already and how we could just tweak it a little bit to change the experience that you had.
When you do the projects that you build for the community, talk briefly about the problem of making houses because then you're rewarding individuals. So how do you get these funded and what kind of community process is involved in it?
It's a very long process because first you have to gain the community. Well, I think it's the same thing here. Right? You have to gain their faith, their trust. They have to trust you. So it's usually very hard. First, they have to trust you, and then the problem we've got is that we can manage to do a lot of projects, but these projects are not usually have the possibility to be rebuilt. So what we work on a small scale, so these projects can be built. And there are other scale of projects in which we give the community the opportunity to go with these projects for government aid or for some kind of organization aid. So they will have something to show, and they may have something that gives the idea that it's worthwhile doing this. They know what they are looking for. They know how the solution may be, but the project is not ready to be built. It's a little, there are like two different sizes of projects, but not all the projects that are done are small scale projects because community needs all, they have sometimes other needs, and not just a school classroom or something with this small scale.
Are they giving you the grant and making you responsible for it, or do they give it to the community?
It's part and part. It depends on where.
Even more complicated.
Yes, it depends on where it comes from. For example, we had a relationship with Berlin Technical University, and Germans got a financial aid from churches or religious organizations. So all the projects we had to do had to be with the welfare of the community, but they had to be, it doesn't matter which kind of religious community it was, but it had to be in their own plot, and they would have to do the management after the project was finished. So we did this for quite, I think that more than 15 years. But then the professor that had this program in Berlin, she finished her period as professor, and the project was lost because it's a hard way to get all this aid, and it's very severe, the responsibility of having things built and being shown to those that gave the aid when they were finished. So at Berlin we didn't have there wasn't a professor that would like to have this responsibility anymore. So we work with communities having governmental aid, but they are just for a very special kind of project. For example, the one in Guerrero, it has from the Secretary of Education, they have a special income for this because it's working in what we call intercultural education. So that there's a project that we can find a way of inserting the project in this program, and that will help us. But we got the project and it is eager to have it built at least one classroom, but we are still looking how we get it busy.
So you could take back one of our best techniques. Our dean is out on the job site today pouring concrete in the rain. So that's how we finish.
I think that it's not pouring concrete on the site. I remember when I was a student, they said that was the way it should be done. And well, I did that and I have a backache. I don't know, for more than 2 weeks, I guess. And the builders, I don't know if it's builder, we call it albañil in Spanish, they were very happy to have their architect working with them. But well, at the end you learn that it's not just pouring concrete, it's much more than pouring concrete. And I think in education that's the rough part, because in some way you can do somebody that just will be pouring concrete, but at the end you need to know much more and to have the possibility of looking to the whole project. It doesn't matter how the scale is. I usually answer this to students because they say, because you are the university and you are not an architect. And I say I have a large professional practice. And even though I'm the dean, I still have this practice because I think that you can't live, that you can work on education, but you must have the experience. And with this answer, I usually say you must have the experience. You can't just stay with the possibility of I'm educated. You must have the experience because if you don't have it, and you don't have it at least once in your life, and you don't do this rough work. But I can say that I have albañiles, they are workers that have been with me more than 30 years, and I will never be able to have a brick wall built by myself that will be straight enough, and they will always do it. But they will always look for what are you looking for. And at the end, the one that has the whole umbrella is the architect, or the planner, or the landscape. But what we can do for many years, we have just theoretical architects, the planners, or landscape architects. And I think that to work in the small scale, you need to have this, not just the approach, but the practice.
I saw the logo for Infonavit, and what type of relationship today exists between the training of students and the facultad and the institution of Infonavit? And it's obviously changed over time, but today.
Well, Infonavit is the Institute of Housing in Mexico, and it became I don't know if you call it the same way in English, a second-level bank institution. That they just give the credits, but they did at the beginning they did the whole architectural work, and then for a long time they left this and they became just like a bank. And then we have now there's a person there that it's very funny because he's Mexican. He was trained as an architect at Yale, and then he went back to Mexico, and he is now heading the part of research and sustainability at Infonavit. And what happened is that he arrived there and he said, as I come from Yale, I want all these top-level architects to work with me. So he invited a lot of architects of this star system, a generation that's around 50 years old, and he said, we will do the best in housing in Mexico. And what happened is that these studios they don't have the training. They do have the experience of doing great projects and working in international contests or being exhibition partners or being doing exhibitions, but they didn't work with they had never worked with the people and they never worked in this scale. So for us it was very good because we have worked for many years on a method in the process on how to make an analysis and a diagnostic of what should be done. What was good for the university is that they hired us to do this part. And when this part was finished, we gave these very important studios the work done, so they would be able to just design. And I think that's a part that was very good for us because what we showed at Infonavit is that it's not just the idea of sitting down and designing. It's the idea that you should look at the problem first, and then you have to work with the people, and then you have to rethink what we're working, or in Mexico we're working on. Infonavit did everything was residential, large-scale projects, and Infonavit right now doesn't have the possibility to work inside the projects. They have the possibility to work in the public space. So they are now working first on the public space to raise quality of life within these residential complexes. That they are all social projects, and then after this public space is being rethinked and redesigned and rebuilt, and the community found themselves like identifying again with the place they live. Automatically they are working with their own dwellings. But the idea was very good because they are not working with the dwelling itself, they are working with the community space, with the public space. And that has been very good for us because within all the methodology we had it, but we hadn't been able to use it in so many places at the same time. And the most important part is that these projects are being built. So the methodology we have helped these other studios to look at the problem. Right now, everybody knows what you should do. But what happened in the first moment is that they had been working in things that were not really solving the necessity of the people living in these complexes. So it has been a very interesting work as a research work, and the research work has led to a built environment that's being done by Infonavit.
I have a question also on your social projects, and I was wondering whether you are actually developing some strategies to gain the trust, for instance, of the community, and if there is like a kind of protocol to get to work together with them, and then also how much are they involved in the process, and like basically how much each of the parties is involved in the process. Like, is the school involved to the construction, or is like the community is also involved in the construction? Do they participate in the design decisions? And so how does it work? Like, if you have like a...
The first part is, well, we get in touch with the community. When you got, they trust you, the community. We take our students to work with the community. In that part, the engagement is that the community receives the students, usually in the school, not in their homes, but that's in public spaces, usually schools, and the community gives all the facilities. They give the food, they give the party, they give everything, because they are very interested in having the students working with them. And this helped us very much because in some way they got personally involved with the people. They say, oh, I know this girl, I know this boy, or this family, or this gave the tortillas, you know, the other gave the water or anything. And in some way, the whole community engages with the project because they are giving you something. So the first part is have their trust, and then they get engaged with the project, and we work with them. We call something that's called brigada. Sometimes it's a large group of students that goes for a weekend. They arrive on Thursday or Friday and they stay until Sunday. And they give the community a very quick overview of the problem. For example, we have projects on urban image because in Mexico there has been developed a program that's called Magic Towns. And for this there's a financial aid from the government. But the small towns, they don't know what to say. And then when they say who has a project, they don't have a project. So they've seen that our work helps a lot for this. But they want to have this very short exercise. Because a short exercise will give them a lot of work because there are around 60 students working in this kind of work for a whole weekend. And if the project isn't finished, they take it to the university and then they go and present it less than a month after that. And then they look to have this economic aid. And when they are small projects, we work it with the community. But as our groups are very large, we have to have smaller groups. They must be not bigger than 20 persons. Because if they are bigger than 20, it won't work. And in Mexico, most of the people are self-builders. So the community loves to be engaged. So our students learn from the community and the community learns from our students because self-building is part of the cultural way of living in Mexico. And that's why the community always involves with the projects.
Talking about the community, do you guys only work with architecture students, or do you also guys invite like civil engineers to be in the process of building the community centers over here in Mexico?
We do it just with architects. Yes, we have a hard relationship with engineering, but mostly in the nanotechnology and industrial design processes. Not really on building this kind of projects. When they are large scale, we should have engineers involved. But for this, community looks for a second step, and that step is always when there's a financial aid, and then we join with the engineers. But in the first step, there are always